everybody, and welcome to another episode of Trek Mission Log. My name is Jason Gilbert. Whether this is your first time checking this out, or if you've been with me from the beginning, I welcome you here. We are deep diving into Star Trek, reviewing every Star Trek adventure ever filmed. Currently, we are in Season 1 of the original series. I was wondering if you would be willing to hit the subscribe button if you enjoy this content. It would really help me out a lot. It would help this channel out immensely. And also, we can connect with each other on Instagram at Trek Mission Log. Now, today is going to be very special. We are looking at Season 1, Episode 29 of the original series. Now, this episode is one of the most talked about episodes from the original series. It is titled The City on the Edge of Forever. It originally aired on April the 5th, 1967. It was written by Harlan Ellison, directed by Joseph Pevney, produced by Gene L. Kuhn. So check out this piece of Trek trivia, and then when we come back, we will dive into this incredible story. The Enterprise is in orbit over a planet and is in a state of red alert. The ship is being rocked. The circuits are threatening to overload. The helm circuit's fried and it injured Mr. Sulu. Kirk alerted sickbay. Spock said that this is very scientifically important as they are passing through ripples in time. Kirk orders Uhura to send his last 6 log entries to Starfleet Command to alert them of their situation. Now, McCoy comes to the bridge to attend to Sulu, and McCoy gives him a few drops of a hypospray called cordialcine, and Sulu wakes up smiling. After plotting most of the time distortions, Spock said that one more was coming and would be very heavy. Meanwhile, McCoy checks a hypospray. The ship then is hit by a very violent displacement, causing McCoy to accidentally inject himself with the cordialcine. A very, very dangerous amount. McCoy goes into a violent tirade. He keeps yelling, "You won't get me, killers." He then runs into the turbo lift. Kirk orders a security alert, and we fade into the title sequence. When we come back in a captain's log entry, Kirk says that a dose of cordialcine, 200 times the normal amount, has been injected into McCoy. Now, McCoy sneaks into the transporter room and with 2 very powerful karate chops knocks out the transporter chief. He steals the phaser and transports down to the planet. When the bridge is alerted, Kirk orders Spock to set up a landing party to go after him. When the landing party beam down to the planet, they immediately see this. Uhura is with the landing party this time. I believe this is the first time she beams down with them in the series. Now they hear a noise and they begin recording. Spock said that the ruins they are standing in are about 10,000 centuries old. The giant rock with the opening in it is pulsating with power. Spock said that this object is the source of all the time displacement. Now, as Uhura and another officer walk by, McCoy is hiding behind a rock. When Kirk asked what the object was, it spoke. It said, "Since before your race was born, I have awaited a question." Kirk asked who it was. It said, "I am the guardian of forever." Spock then said that this was a time portal. The guardian started showing them images of different parts of human history. At that point, McCoy comes out of hiding. He keeps calling them killers. The landing party subdue him, and Spock gives him a Vulcan nerve pinch. Kirk looks at the Guardian and asks Spock if they could take McCoy through the gateway back one day and relive the accident and make certain that he doesn't accidentally inject himself. And as they watch the doorway to the past unfold before them, McCoy wakes up. He runs toward the portal and jumps through. And then he is gone. They try to communicate with the ship, but to no avail. The Guardian then said that their ship and everything they knew is gone. McCoy somehow has gone back in time and changed history. All Earth history has now been changed. Kirk and Spock have decided to go through the portal to the time McCoy went to and set right what McCoy had changed. Now, because Spock was recording, he thinks that he can get them to within a week before McCoy arrives so that they can stop him. Scotty and Uhura said that it would be a miracle if they find him. Kirk said if they think they waited long enough for their return, each of them would have to make a jump through the portal to carry on with their lives. And at that moment, Kirk and Spock jump through. Now, on the other side of the portal, they are in the 1930s during the Great Depression. Passers-by notice Spock's ears. Kirk and Spock find some laundry that somebody had hung. They decide to take some of the clothing. And as they walk away with the clothing, they encounter a police officer. And the officer is staring at Spock. Undoubtedly the ears. Kirk said that in an attempt to explain the situation, that Spock was obviously Chinese. And he said Spock had an unfortunate accident as a child. His head was caught in a mechanical rice picker. Now, as they were about to be arrested, Spock gave the officer a Vulcan nerve pinch. They run. They end up in the basement of a building off of an alley. They change into the clothing they stole. And Kirk put the idea of building some sort of computer from this century to try to figure out what McCoy did to change history. They have about 1 week before McCoy arrives through the portal. At that moment, a lady comes downstairs. Kirk tells her they have no money and that they stole the clothes and ran away from the police. She said that they can do with some help. When Kirk asked where they were, she said they're in the basement of the 21st Street Mission. She introduced herself as Edith Keeler. Later, as Kirk and Spock have a meal at the mission, Edith begins to talk. She speaks about a hopeful future and how there will be huge scientific breakthroughs. She spoke about how someday people will go into space and find a way to feed all the hungry and cure all diseases. Kirk finds himself intrigued by her. Edith offered Kirk and Spock a place to sleep. Meanwhile, Spock has been busy building his computer. Edith comes in and notices Spock's contraption. Spock said that he is trying to construct a mnemonic memory circuit. She told him that she has found more work for them, and so they leave. As they are working, Spock notices a couple of men using tools to work on a clock. Those tools were put away in a cabinet and locked. Spock cracks the combination and steals the tools. Edith catches them. She said she would not report it if Kirk walked her home because she has several questions for him. And so he walks her home and she asks her questions. And he answers without giving away too much information. but there's no doubt that they are attracted to each other. Meanwhile, Spock gets his computer working, and the first image we see is this: the death of Edith Keeler. At that moment, Spock's computer started to fry, and Kirk walks in and asked if he had found anything. Spock puts the computer back together, and this time it showed Edith Keeler involved in politics with the president in 6 years' time. And Spock tried to tell him about the article before Kirk came in. Spock said that Edith Keeler is the focal point in time that they've been looking for, and that she has two possible futures. And McCoy is the random element. Either he kills her and changes history, or he prevents her from being killed and changes history. Spock asks the obvious question: what do? If they discover that in order to repair history, Edith must die. And as the camera fades out, Kirk has a look of terror on his face. We then see McCoy's arrival in that time period through the portal. As he lands, he starts to yell, "Murderers, killers." He finds a homeless man and accuses him of faking all of this. He then passes out on the street. The homeless man searches McCoy, probably to try to find a wallet with money. Instead, he finds McCoy's phaser, and he runs off. And when he's on his own, he pushes the button on the phaser and vaporizes himself. McCoy saunters into the 21st Street mission. Edith gives him a coffee. Meanwhile, Spock gets the computer repaired. And McCoy's changing of history involved Edith living, which means that he saved her life from a terrible accident. And the price of her living is that 6 years down the road, she influences the president, starts a huge pacifist movement in the United States, which delays their entry into World War II. As a result, Hitler wins the war, and Germany develops the atomic bomb first. Because of that, the Third Reich was able to capture the world. Edith Keeler was the leader of the peace movement. Somehow, McCoy saved her life when she was supposed to die, and that led to the changing of history. They have to stop McCoy from saving her life. It was then that Kirk said to Spock that he is in love with her. Spock said that in order for history to return to its proper course, Edith had to die. Now, she had been nursing McCoy back to health. He identifies himself as the chief medical officer of the USS Enterprise, and she doesn't believe him. We then see Kirk walking her home again, and she almost falls down the stairs, and Kirk stops her. She leans in and gives Kirk a kiss. Spock saw it. He said that when the time comes, Kirk needs to let her die, and Kirk is obviously very conflicted. McCoy wakes up and is back to health. He has a conversation with Edith, and she said that she had to leave. Edith and Kirk are then seen walking across the road, and she mentions Dr. McCoy to him. Of course, this gets his attention, and he tells her to stay there, and he runs across the road to see Spock. They reunite with McCoy, and Edith begins crossing the road. A truck is about to hit her. McCoy tries to run out to save her, but Kirk stops him, and she is hit by the truck. And you can see the pain in Kirk's face. They come back through the portal. Scotty greets them and tells them that they've only been gone a moment. Spock said that they were successful. The Guardian said that time has resumed its shape. All is as it was before. Communications are now restored with the Enterprise. And Kirk said, "Let's get out of here." And they beam up to the ship. And that's the story of the city on the edge of forever. This is one of the most compelling, well-acted, well-written episodes of the whole original series. It is captivating right from the start, and it holds you, it grips you until it finishes. The introduction was fantastic because of the effect of the ship on the time displacement. McCoy injected himself by accident with a deadly dose of the cordial scene, and it had immediate effects, sending McCoy into a sort of psychosis. DeForest Kelley shined in this episode. He proved that he had depth as an actor. Now, the setting on the planet was amazing. It was shrouded in mystery. It had incredible sci-fi elements. The idea of a time portal where you could travel back in time to be a part of any moment in history is very intriguing. When the Guardian began showing the different points of history, I got goosebumps watching that. This was one amazing story. McCoy jumps through the portal and is propelled back in time. Now, it brings up a very interesting idea. What would happen if history were somehow changed? Here it meant they had no ship, no life. They would have been stranded on this planet for all their lives. Now, all of us have moments in our past where we wish that we could change it. We have all entertained that thought. 5 weeks before I got married, I went bowling with my fiance and some of her siblings, and I fell and broke my leg. And I've often wished that I could go back in time and change that. But how would that affect the future? Kirk and Spock decide to go back to try to stop what McCoy did. And it proved to be a very, very painful experience, very costly. They meet Edith, portrayed by a young Joan Collins. Now, she has stated that all throughout her career, people have stopped to talk to her about this episode. It had a profound impact on people. She is the object of when history changed. To undo what McCoy put into motion meant that she had to die. Her performance was fantastic, and quite frankly, Shatner's performance was phenomenal here. He fell in love with her, and he had to let her die. Now put yourself in his shoes for a moment. Could you have done that? You could really feel his pain. And the chemistry between Shatner and Collins was amazing. And you really felt the loss that Kirk felt in this episode. The setting for 1930s Earth was also spectacular. It was cool to see the old buildings and the old cars. They also did a good job portraying the Depression era and the desperation of the people who lived during those tumultuous times. Something else that stood out was Spock's ingenuity of putting together a device in that time period to cooperate with his tricorder. It was great. Also, in an attempt to add some humor here, Spock was identified as a Chinese man who had an unfortunate accident with a mechanical rice picker. Now, some people may find that offensive today. Now, please forgive me, but I laughed hysterically. It leads me to share something here. I really think that as a society, we really need to learn how to laugh again and not take everything so seriously. Please don't judge this episode because of that. Take it for what it was meant to be, humorous, and go ahead and enjoy a guilt-free laugh. Now, I think you get the idea. I absolutely love this episode. I can't find any weaknesses in it. I went over it with a fine-tooth comb. It is absolutely flawless from start to finish. If I could, I would give this an extra star, 6 out of 5. But my scoring is 5 stars. And so I give this episode 5 out of 5 Starfleet insignias for awesomeness. Just an incredible episode of Star Trek. Please don't miss this one. Well, that wraps up this edition of Trek Mission Log. I hope that you found this episode enjoyable. I absolutely loved The City on the Edge of Forever. Please make sure you check out that episode and let me know what you think. Please feel free to drop a comment. I read all of them and I try my very best to respond to all of them. And even if people disagree with me, that's okay. We're allowed to disagree. All I ask is that we remain respectful of each other's opinions and that we keep the comments profanity free. Now, next time, we are going to bring a wrap to Season 1 of the original series in an episode titled Operation Annihilation.